All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to wait a couple of seconds just because I know it takes a little minute or so for all the participants to come into the room. So yeah, they're all filtering through as I speak, which is wonderful. But yes, happy Wednesday to everybody. Welcome to this afternoon session, all about confidence and imposter syndrome. For those of you that don't know, my name is Louise. I'm the COO for EventWell, and we're absolutely delighted today to be presenting for the Wellness Revival Festival in conjunction with PA Life. So thank you for all of those that are attending today. We have got the lovely Josie Shepherd and Laura Cruz with us this afternoon, who's going to be taking us through this session. Yeah, looking forward to this session. It's going to be really, really interesting. I know that. Just a couple of the housekeeping bits and pieces. So at the bottom of your screen, if you're on, obviously you're on Zoom, throughout the session, if there's anything that comes up for you, or if you've got any questions or points that you want to make, then please feel free to pop a question in the chat or the Q&A box, and we will go through those at the end. But yeah, without further ado, I'm going to hand straight over to Josie and Laura, and they will take you through. Hello, ladies.
Hello. Lovely. Yeah, thank you so much for having us this afternoon. It's yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you to EventWell and PA Life, and to all of you for oh hi, and to all of you, yeah, for taking the time out this afternoon to join the session. The aim is to give you lots of hints and tips that hopefully will be really actionable, you know, things that you can take away and use straight away, whatever your situation or your circumstances. So yeah, really pleased to be co-hosting this with my fellow coach Laura. So the way the session will run is that I'm going to start off covering imposter syndrome. We're going to talk a bit about that, and then I'm going to hand over to Laura, who will talk about how we can improve our confidence, and then we'll both be on at the end for any Q&A questions that you want to ask. Yeah, so that's how it will run. I'm going to start by sharing my screen and make sure that works before we get into anything. So just bear with me. Hopefully you can see.
Yeah, that works.
See that, yeah? Perfect, thank you. Right, so if anyone just, with housekeeping on Zoom, I'm sure you're all really familiar with this because everyone's been on Zoom, haven't they, forever for the last couple of months. But it may be if you've got a video screen that's obstructing the content, you just want to minimize it so that you can see what's on screen. So feel free to move it around if you need to. Feel free to take little pictures of anything you want as we go through within this. If there's anything that you want to, yeah, you want to capture, that's absolutely fine as well. So yeah, so tackling imposter syndrome is where we're going to start. So what am I going to be covering for the next 20 minutes or so? We're going to start by talking about what is imposter syndrome. So for those of you who are perhaps hearing, you know, this for the first time, or perhaps you've heard of it being mentioned, but you're not quite sure what it is, we're going to talk about what it is. We're going to talk about when it tends to show up, why you should be kind of bothered about it, you know, if it's something that you are feeling or have felt recently, and then some actionable ways that you can deal with it, that you can take away, and as I say, hopefully start using if it is something that is relevant for you. So that's what we will be covering. A few things about me, just to start with by way of introduction. So I'm a career change and business coach. So I help women who want to change career, whether it's moving industries or make some sort of pivot, as well as those that want to start and grow a side hustle so that they can get out of their 9 to 5, you know, if that's what they want to do. And really that's exactly what I've done. So I spent the first 15 years working in marketing and communications and events, so in mainly in corporates and startups. And I knew a few years ago that I wanted to change things up for my own career, get more flexibility, you know, feel more fulfilled by what I was doing. So I retrained as a coach at the beginning of 2019, And last year I took the decision as well to set up my own sideline. So I teach people how to run with their dogs. This is my dog, Jasper, that you can see on screen. So we run a little business together, teaching people how to run with their dogs as my own sideline. So I've changed industries, you know, in the last 15 years. I've done that in terms of career change. I've had various pivots. I've started a side hustle, retrained alongside my 9 to 5, and then escaped, you know, corporate life to really build my own portfolio career where I have multiple streams of income in what I do now. So hopefully it gives you a good kind of quick whistle stop tour of what I can do, and that's exactly how I help other women now, you know, who are wanting to do the same thing in terms of redefining their own career and, you know, working out what success looks like for them. So that is enough about me. So the first section that I wanted to talk about is really around what is imposter syndrome. You know, how might you know if this is something that is affecting you? And for the purposes of this talk, I'm going to keep it really sort of focused on situations at work. So and you'll see me looking after this because I've got some notes just to make sure that I cover all the points that I want to get across in this presentation. Some of the things that I would say are good indicators. If this, as I say, isn't something that you've heard of, or you're wondering, oh, I don't know if that is me or not. Have you been worried that any minute now your boss will realise that you're not up to the job, or that perhaps you're not very good at a particular part of your role? Maybe you compare yourselves to others. So if you work in a team, maybe you think they know more, that they're better at their jobs, that they are so much more experienced at a particular thing, whether it's a technical skill or it's around organisation or presenting or writing, you know, whatever it may be. Maybe you spend quite a lot of time focusing on what you can't do, or feel like you beat yourself up when something doesn't go to plan. If something does go well, you might be tending to think that, oh, that was down to luck, or, you know, being in the right place at the right time. And very often, and this is where, if you've heard this this expression before, you might have heard it described as this, it can often feel like you're a fraud, that perhaps you're just getting by and you're on the verge of being, you know, found out by your boss or by your colleagues. So, you know, not really a very nice kind of a place to be in terms of, you know, feeling sort of one of those things. And I'd be really interested to know, I don't know if I am actually able to see the chat. I don't think I've got, I don't know if I've got access to it while I'm in the screen, but I'd be really interested if any of you do have sort of felt like that right now or in the past, to just sort of put a yes in the chat box. And Louise, if you can see it, you might tell me if, oh, hang on, maybe I can see it now.
Can you see it, Josie? We've got a couple.
Oh yeah, chat. Yes.
Lots of yeses.
Yes, definitely. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all, actually. It's entirely what I was expecting, because it probably won't surprise you either to know that even if you haven't heard, you know, this word before, or know that there was a, you know, a name sort of attached to it, it is something that research shows affects 70% of people at some point. So you're absolutely not alone if you're feeling like this at the moment, or if you've, you know, felt it at some point in the past. And interestingly, it's something as well that actually can affect people at all levels. So it's not something that just crops up if you, I don't know, are in a particularly junior role. It, you know, it can affect people at all levels, regardless of their background, regardless of how experienced or qualified they are. Okay, so when does it tend to show up? Oops. So it can show up on many different occasions, but it tends to make itself known in one of these sorts of situations. So it might be that you're in a new job. It might be that you've just been promoted, or that you are needing or perhaps wanting to take a new path with a career change, a change of lifestyle, or a new business. So, for example, I've felt this myself when I was promoted in a past job quite a few years ago, and suddenly had to manage people who'd been my peers, you know, up until that point. And also when I decided to retrain as a coach and then started my own business, it kind of popped back up again. It may be that you're having to adapt to a changing situation or navigating some other kind of change, you know, whether it's team structure, whether it's having to work on a new project, whether it is dealing with different goals or being in a new environment. So I think all things that are probably kind of cropping up at the moment, given that in so many kind of workplaces and places where you might be, you know, there is a lot of change. We're having to adapt to a lot of different things given all of the challenges that 2020 have thrown at us. If you've been furloughed, if you're having to adapt to work remotely, or if the shape of your industry has completely changed, as it has, you know, for so many this year, you may find it's kind of popped up. So I think the point I'm making is that if you're feeling it, you know, this year or feeling it right now, I think that's completely normal, and there are lots of reasons why, you know, why that might be the case. If it is something that's impacting you, I think it's really important to acknowledge it and to know that it's really common, but also to understand how it could affect you if you choose to ignore it, or, you know, perhaps try and sort of brush it under the carpet, as sometimes we do with this sort of thing. Because my view is that it does affect your confidence. You know, if you feel like you're not able to, let's say, you know, to speak up at work, particularly if you work in a team of people who all shout louder because you're worried about, you know, showing yourself up, or you're worried about, you know, this thing of, you know, being found out, the more you don't do that, the more you're not likely to do it, you know, in the future. So there's probably some kind of ramifications there in terms of your where you might be going, you know, with your own career or your progression. The reality is everyone brings different skills and experience and perspective, and everyone is on their own path in terms of the background they have, you know, their own strengths. So someone else could be really envious of a skill or a strength that you have that actually you're overlooking because you're too busy, you know, focusing on the thing that you think you're not as experienced or skilled at. So it can be, you know, it can be something that you might have heard of, the sort of the mind monkey before, you know, that voice in your head, you know, is really kind of, I suppose, keeping you small and keeping you focused on that kind of negative. And if you don't speak up for fear of being judged or found out, you know, you might be not only keeping that sort of valuable perspective to yourself, but it could also give other people the perception that actually you don't have that thing, you know, to contribute. So it can kind of become a self-fulfilling prophecy if you're not doing that because you're worried about what other people might think. Which goes back to the point of perhaps missing out on other opportunities, or people actually having a skewed, you know, perception of your strengths or skills. So I think it's also a really horrible cycle to sort of be in personally if you are constantly doubting yourself, if you're always looking for the ways in which you're not good enough, if you're always looking out for kind of where you've failed. And I think my sort of take on this is that wouldn't it be a nicer place to be for you if you could feel like you had your own back, if you could feel that you believed in yourself and that you knew you are good enough exactly as you are. So I just want to sort of leave you with, you know, with that thought as to why should you care about this? Why should you be paying attention to it if it's something that you've felt over, as I say, over the last couple of months? Now, unfortunately, it's not something where you can just necessarily sort of flick a switch overnight and, everything's fine, it's gone away, I've got rid of it. It does take, it takes work, and it takes that acknowledgement that it's something that you want to change. And really, to start to change your behaviour, you have to start by changing the way you think. So the following 4 things that I'm going to talk about are designed to help you do that, as I say, as actionable ways that you can start to tackle this, if it is something that is, has been kind of coming up for you. So 4 ways to tackle it, just to keep it nice and simple, and hopefully that it be not too many, that you can easily remember them and start to implement them. I've just had the spinny wheel of well, not quite the spinny wheel of death, but spinny wheel of slow slow computer, so I'm just going to let that kind of do its thing, and I'll keep talking, and hopefully it will catch up with me and let me, oh, there we go. Yeah, let me move on the slides. So yeah, so the first thing is around this idea of banking good feedback. And what I mean by that is that we're, I'm sure, yeah, this will resonate with some of you, that we're very good at reflecting on the things that haven't gone well, right? But we perhaps find it hard to acknowledge good feedback or compliments, and with those we're often very quick to sort of want to brush them off, or to say, well, that was down to the team, or to do that thing of like, oh, well, that was lucky, or it was in the right place at the right time, that kind of thing. And the first shift that I would suggest, if this, if you've been feeling this way, this impostery kind of feeling, is to start to think about how you can start paying attention to positive feedback and find a way to record it in some way that works for you. So this can be a notebook or a journal, it can be an email folder, it can be the notes on your phone, it can be whatever kind of works for you. It doesn't need to be formal feedback, so it doesn't need to be you're waiting until your year-end review, when your boss is giving you that more sort of formal feedback. It can be anything that comes up in passing, say from a colleague, a friend, a boss, a contact, whether it's verbal, whether it's written, whether it's a comment on social media, whatever it might be. But the idea of this is that if you are starting to build this kind of bank of feedback that you have written down somewhere that you can refer to, if you do have a wobble, or you get that sort of negative inner voice starting to kind of chatter a bit more loudly, it gives you a go-to place where you can start to challenge that and begin to see things from a different perspective, for that sort of instant kind of boost of confidence. I really like the expression, confidence comes from evidence. And I think this is a great way to start building that evidence for yourself that you can then go back to, whenever you're having a wobble. So the first thing I would suggest would be to start doing that, as I say, in whatever format, so that you're building up that picture and you have that kind of evidence to hand. Okay, the second thing is around finding your career highs. And what I mean by this is thinking back about everything that you've done and looking for those high points. So what were the times where you felt really proud or pleased with a project or something that you worked on? And sort of take yourself back to that place and remember how that felt. And it can be easy to attribute, I think, the success of something to the team, as I've talked about, to good luck, being in the right place at the right time. But actually, in most cases, that's really doing a bit of a disservice, to your own your own value and contribution and everything that you brought to that. So even if things at the moment, let's say, feel really stressful, or you're finding this is, as I say, something that is coming up often where you're berating yourself for, I don't know, not being able to do such and such a thing, or not feeling like you're good enough at whatever it might be. There will be these times that you can look back on over your career journey where there have been those high points. And something that can really help is to reflect on what your role was, what qualities did you bring to make that happen, what does that say about you? Because we don't often pause to reflect in this way, but doing so helps us to reframe and allows us to see the value that we bring and what we have to offer, even if it was something in the past, because again, that's giving you that evidence that you were able to do that at that point. So that would be the second thing that I would suggest. Third thing, wear your boss's shoes. So this sounds a bit strange, but essentially what this is all about is it's another way to bring a fresh perspective on what you contribute to your role or your team. And this is a bit of a visualization exercise where you imagine yourself as your boss and think about what they would say about why they hired you, or perhaps what you've contributed to the team since then. It can feel quite a bit confronting or a bit challenging, doing this sort of thing, particularly if you've never thought in this way. So I would say, even if you can start with 3 reasons, as a starting point, it's a really good way to get going with this. because it's so easy for the value that we bring, to become a bit of a blind spot for us. And I think if you can think about this and almost, as I say, put that that different hat on, or those different pair of shoes, and really sort of put yourself in that other person's position, you'll kind of come up with something different in terms of perspective, that again could help you sort of see the value and the skills and strengths that you have, that are unique to you. If you feel comfortable, you could ask a trusted colleague to help you with this, as that often kind of brings fresh perspective as well. The other way, if you're getting really kind of stuck with this, is to outside of work, think about one or two really kind of close, trusted friends. And this is something that I heard from Simon Sinek, who is an author who's written a lot in the kind of personal development space. And one of the things that he recommends is to ask that friend, why are we friends? Which sounds like a really kind of sort of strange question. And the likelihood is, in the first instance, you won't necessarily get a straight answer in terms of the specifics. So you probably need to ask, to reframe it and ask, what is it about me that means you'll always be there for me? Now, the reason for asking this is that it really kind of helps to give that kind of fresh perspective on your values and your strengths and qualities that you may be totally overlooking. Now, not all of those are necessarily going to be relevant to the work that you do, but I'm sure for a lot of you, if you were to do that exercise, it may well throw up certain things that you think, actually, I do bring, that part of me to work as well, and it's something that I'd, perhaps been completely overlooking. So this is all about putting yourself in someone else's shoes and getting that kind of fresh perspective. Okay, last thing. So this is around what I would call rewiring your internal script. So we've talked already a little bit about the mind monkeys, or this negative internal voice, that kind of mean voice in our heads, whether we're beating ourselves up about asking for help, whether we're not telling ourselves off for not knowing the answer, or feeling like we're failing at something. It can get really noisy. I'm sure we've all felt that, whatever it might be saying. However it's shown up for you, it's really important to try and keep it in check. So the first thing I'd say is start to notice how you're talking to yourself. And if it's negative, think about how you might need to reframe it to make it more positive, because obviously it's not great if we're just hearing this, this negative sort of script over and over, and never stopping to challenge it. So you might need to reframe it to make it more positive. This could mean shifting a thought such as, any minute now, my boss will find out I've no idea what I'm doing, to it's normal to feel a bit wobbly when starting something new, but I've got all of the skills and the right attitude to make a good go of it. That's just an example of how you might need to kind of rewire that sort of thinking. And really I guess it's about trying to sort of turn that thinking to, what if everything turned out okay? What would need to change for me to believe that's possible? Because so often we can get caught, as I say, in this kind of washing machine cycle of those mean thoughts. Our brain really likes to be constantly putting on its hard hat and sort of risk assessing for future danger or problems, to try and keep us safe. But sometimes we have to actually manually override that in terms of the sort of this script that we've got going on. So thinking back to times where you've dealt with a similar issue or problem, can be a really helpful way of finding that evidence. Remember, evidence, helps to build confidence, so that you have the skills and competency to deal with it this time around. That can be a really kind of powerful way of doing that. It may be that you need to write down the new thought to help make it stick, and then actually put it somewhere where you can see it. So whether it's on a post-it note, whether it's on the mirror, whether it's in a notebook, whether it's in your notes on your phone, wherever it might be. Those are all ways that can help just to sort of rewire that dialogue that you may not have even really been actively sort of paying attention to, but often it can really help to try and manually sort of intercept that. So that was a real whistle stop tour, but I hope it's given you a couple of new ideas that you can take away and implement sort of straight away, whatever's going on for you now. I'm going to touch really briefly on this before I hand over to Laura, which is just how you can connect with me if you'd like to. So I'm on Instagram, my handle's there, my website josieshepherd.com. My email address is also hello@josieshepherd.com. I didn't put that on, but that's how to get in touch with me. I have a group on Facebook called Next Chapter Lounge, which is all for people that are wanting to change career, are wanting to, start or grow a side hustle, are really interested in doing work that they love. So anyone that wants to kind of come over and join me there, there's weekly sessions happening at the moment, live training sessions and other kind of good stuff that goes on in there. You're really welcome to. And I have a little special offer that I wanted to share on here, which is specifically, I suppose, around getting set for interview success, because I'm sure a lot of people maybe are in this position at the moment where they're having to sort of think about what's going on career-wise. They might be worried about what's going to happen in the future in terms of jobs or opportunities. So I've combined a sort of a mini coaching offer with a CV revamp. So it's a one-to-one strategy coaching call with me to really talk about where you want to go next. So it's for anyone really that is feeling like they're going to be in the market for a new job in the autumn, and perhaps you're not quite sure what direction you're going in, or you might be looking at a kind of a slight pivot and need to sort of get clear on how you want to position yourself going forwards. And if you have, as I say, a CV that is a bit dusty or or needs kind of zhuzhing up, then I will do that CV revamp for you as well. So that's that. I mean, there are other ways to work with me as well, but that's the one that I wanted to highlight, just because anyone that is in that position and kind of feeling a bit wobbly about work in the future, that's probably the one that is most relevant. For anyone on this call, the first 5 to book get an extra 30 minutes pre-interview coaching call with me as well. So that's a little kind of nice add-on for you if anyone wants to go ahead and do that. And you can contact me, as I say, via my website. You'll find my email address there. It's also hello@josieshepherd.com. So that is me. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Laura. And I'll be on for the rest so that we can answer any questions that might come up at the end. So I'll stop sharing and then, Laura can pick up from there.
Fantastic. Right, I'm going to share my screen now. Josie, there was a question that perhaps you can be thinking about. No, just about, there was a question I was going to answer, but I've left it for you. What if you're your own boss? Because you said put yourself in your boss's shoes. So there's a question. So perhaps you can think about that. We can cover that at the end.
I'll give that some thought whilst you do your bit.
Excellent. Right, so thanks, Josie, for that. That was brilliant. So much information, so much to learn about imposter syndrome. So really great to be here. So thanks to EventWell and PA Life for having me. So my session is around improving your confidence. Now, I guess we are talking in more of a kind of corporate space and more of a kind of work environment, and obviously if I was coaching you, I would know exactly what we're talking about, but I don't know the precise context for you. So forgive me if some of the stuff that I'm saying is a little bit more focused in an area that you're not kind of that isn't relevant to you at the moment. Let's see now. Why is it on my screen? Oh, there we go. My screen is wibbling down, so I've had technical issues. Right, so this is me. So I am the talent trainer. So I am fully qualified coach, very much focused on confidence and self-belief. I am a learning and development consultant and a freelance trainer. So lots of different things, lots of different strings to my bow. But my absolute passion, and the one without doubt that I place more emphasis on, is my coaching, because I absolutely think that helping people, and I predominantly work with women, to up their levels of confidence and self-belief ultimately opens up lots of different avenues and lots of different kind of, it allows people to appreciate that they can achieve their dreams. So that's a little bit about me. Right, let me go. Ooh. So one of the things that I think is really, really important when we start thinking about confidence and how we feel about ourselves is related to the story that we tell ourselves. Okay, so ultimately those stories impact our confidence. And those stories could have come from somebody from years ago. So I was actually talking to somebody about this on the phone earlier. You know, a teacher might have said to you when you were at school that you weren't very good at something, and you're probably hanging on to that ever since, even though you know rationally that something that somebody said to you when you were 15 does not represent who you are as a person now, where you're going, and you know, it doesn't really say anything about you. It's not relevant. As people, we are constantly developing, but I think often we allow these kind of thoughts to come in. And I think one of the stories that I used to tell myself that I only realized last year I was telling myself was that I wasn't confident. So I would always say to people, the comment would be, "You're really confident, Laura." And I would always say, "Oh, I'm not. It's a front. It's a front. I'm not really confident." And when I was doing, I was on a coaching course last year, the coach trainer said to me, "You seem really confident when you walked in." And I said, "Oh, my usual story, it's a front." And she said, "No, it isn't." And she's the first person ever to say that to me. She said, "It isn't." And I said, "It is." She said, "It isn't." I said, "It is." So we proceeded like this over dinner. And she said, "It's not a front. You are confident." And it was really interesting because she'd actually challenged me on it and kind of not called me out, because obviously it's my story. I can have any story I like. But that sense that actually she was right. It is something I've been telling myself. I'm a pretty tall person. I would tend to wear heels, so I kind of strut into a room. I'm fairly heavy-footed, so you'd hear me coming. And that kind of, I don't know, maybe that height gave me a bit of confidence to walk in. But it's such a strange thing that I just kept repeating that story and not even hearing the words. And then when somebody asked me if it's actually true, and I admit that it isn't, she said to me, I said, "Well, I don't know what to say now, because I've been telling myself that for 20 years. And she said, "I challenge you to go to bed tonight and tell yourself that you're not saying that story anymore. And then when you wake up tomorrow, don't ever use it again." And I haven't. So it's funny, the confidence was always in me, but I was kind of hiding behind it, and I'm not sure why. I don't know. But often stories that we tell ourselves are related to what people have said to us. They might not have been fair comments, and I definitely think that people don't intentionally mean to undermine you, reduce your confidence, or make you feel really kind of self-conscious, but often they do. And that might be, so I mentioned a teacher, it might be a parent, it might be a teacher, it might be a grandparent, a friend, might be a bully. You know, if you were bullied at school and somebody said, "Oh, you're no good at that," you might have hung on to that because that bully was so powerful that they really made you feel that way. It might be a boss, current boss, ex-boss. It might be a partner, might be an ex-partner. All of these people will have said things to you, and what you will have done, and Josie touched on it in her session, is that instead of thinking about the positive things, you know, if there were 99 positive things and one negative thing, I guarantee the negative thing is the one that you've held on to. So my challenge today is to get you thinking about what story you tell yourself. So I've just put up some examples of things that I think we do say about ourselves, which then ultimately hold us back. So you might be saying, you know, "There's this great job that I've seen, absolute dream role. I'd love it, but I'm not going to apply for it because I don't think I'm qualified for it." You might be thinking that you don't have the confidence to get yourself out there. Again, thinking about an old story, somebody might have said once that you're not good with people. And therefore, if it was a people-focused role, you would be thinking, "Oh, I don't really want to do that. I'm going to shy away from that." You might tell yourself that your peers are more career-focused than you. Therefore, because of that, they're more likely to succeed. They're more likely to get a new role. They're more likely to get promotion. They're more likely to be recognised. This one, the next one, I think is a really key one for the where we are at the moment in the world in 2020. I need to stay in a job I don't enjoy because it's stable. And we're going to explore these. We're going to pick these apart. Perhaps you tell yourself, perhaps your story is you don't push yourself because you're scared of failure. So actually, if you stay in the safety zone, then you can't fail, and that's fine. You can kind of trundle along doing what you're doing, which I'm not for a minute suggesting is wrong. It's only if you want to progress and you're allowing that story to hold you back. Sorry, there's a siren going past. And also you might be telling yourself, that you're not good enough or you don't feel good enough. So these are lots of different stories that you might be telling yourself. I don't know if any of those resonate with you. I don't know if we can see in the chat box if any of those kind of are something that you might have said about yourself or might resonate, might kind of ring a few bells with you. So I guess my challenge for today is to say that we're going to actually get rid of all those. I'm just going to ask you to bear with me and we're going to get rid of them. Okay, so we're going to, like me with my I'm not confident is the front story, I'd like you to think about these stories that you're telling yourself and we're going to explore why you should do that. So if we look at the first one, so I'm not qualified for that dream role I've seen. So this is a story you're telling yourself. You've seen this amazing role. It's challenging. It's in a brilliant industry. You know, it's for a brilliant company, brilliant people. It's got great salary, but you're not qualified for it. So the great thing about coaching is it's often about asking questions. So the first question I'd ask you to think about is who says you're not qualified for that dream role? So who told you that you weren't qualified for that dream role? We often hold ourselves back because we think that, you know, we have to tick these certain boxes. I mean, I'm not suggesting if you want to be a doctor, obviously you have to, you know, have studied medicine at university, but there are other things that you could be doing and you don't necessarily need a qualification or massive amounts of experience to do it. So if it's not you telling yourself that you're not qualified for it, perhaps it's a friend or somebody who thinks that they know a lot. And we've all got these people in our life who are an expert on what we should be doing. And actually, the person who is most qualified to say what you should be doing is you, not somebody else, because everybody always has, naturally, they have a view, an opinion, a side. There's a reason why they're saying that. And they don't mean to kind of hold you back, but actually, there is a particular, you know, they've got some, I don't know, deep-seated feeling about why you shouldn't be doing it. So I think this is very much linked to what Josie said about rewiring your internal script. So if you're feeling that you're not qualified, I challenge you that you probably are, and you could be thinking quite differently about that. Okay, so have a bit of a check about how you're talking to yourself. If you do need a qualification for it, then what's stopping you going out and getting that qualification? We've had lots of time this year to look at what we could be doing, and there's a lot of learning out there. Sometimes it isn't even a paid qualification. It's something that you can get online for free. So that's the first one. So what about the second one? So I don't have the confidence to put myself out there. So again, the question I'm going to ask you is, what's the worst that could happen if you put yourself out there? So if you put yourself out there for that job, for that interview, for that, I don't know, challenge you set yourself, for that new sport you were going to try, you know, for that, maybe that dance class. I don't know, it's quite hard to say, isn't it? Because I'm not allowed to do anything. But if you were to be allowed out and to do anything, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen if you put yourself out there? What could happen? And the reality is, not much. Okay, so if you put yourself out there and you get rejected by that job, that, I don't know, that potential partner, that friend, I think rejection is fine. I think we need to get used to rejection. Sometimes things don't work out how we want them to, but if you don't put yourself out there, you'll never know whether it would have worked or not. So you'll stay in your comfort zone. So I think we need to get comfortable with a bit of rejection. You might not get rejected either. But think about how you can get kind of comfortable with that and actually believe that if you put yourself out there, you are opening up more opportunities. And I've linked this back into Josie's about putting yourself in your boss's shoes. So your boss saw something in you that was so brilliant that he or she employed you. So have that kind of in your pocket as that really great thing to kind of spur you on in terms of confidence. So the next one, I've always been told I'm not good with people. So again, my question, who told you you weren't good with people? Remember that often people say things and they've got some kind of reason or some, you know, a particular view for them saying it in the first place. So again, it might have been a throwaway comment that you've hung on to. And actually, most people are good with people. If you're working in the PA world, as I think you all are watching this, then you will be good with people. But also think about who told you that and when they told you that. So again, if it's something that you were told many years ago, I think we can probably safely say that as a person, even if you weren't good with people when you were a teenager at school, perhaps you didn't make many friends, or you were a bit difficult to for the teacher to deal with, you're not that person now. So you're a completely different person. You've developed over time. Lost my train of thought then. Right. So that one. Okay, so then the next one is, I feel like my peers are more career focused than me. So here's my question. What if they are? So what if your peers are more career focused? What if they are out there and they're really pushing themselves up the career ladder? Have a think about what difference that makes for you. Does it actually matter to you if they are out, they're pushing themselves a bit further than you? You don't have to keep up with them. You don't have to be the same as them. You can do you can follow the route which works for you. So if you want to push yourself and become, you know, much more career focused and drive yourself, then you need to actually acknowledge what your peers are doing and then kind of follow in their footsteps. However, if you're just holding that back as a kind of excuse, then that is a really limiting belief, isn't it? You are on your own journey, and your journey will take you in the direction that you want it to go. So think about how you did really well at some point in your career, and then use that as kind of leverage to push you on. So this is a biggie, I think, at the moment. So I need to stay in a job I don't enjoy because it's stable, and I think this is so huge. And I think it's so sad that every day we see more and more reports of companies letting people go, and lots of change, lots of instability, a lot of unemployment. So really difficult times. It's a massive issue, and I'm not suggesting for one moment that anybody should take the leap right now, because I think that if you have something stable, I reckon you should probably hang on to it. I'm not a career advisor, but I just think if you've got a little bit of stability, then enjoy it, because actually there isn't much stability elsewhere, is there? So if you've got something in your life that's stable, I reckon you should hang on to it. However, if you are thinking there's something that you would rather be doing, what's to stop you exploring it now? So that's where Josie would come in with her kind of conversation around career coaching. So what is it that you would like to be doing? If it's something really different, then start exploring, start getting some information, start learning what you would need to do now to get you to that place. So if I tell you that in March last year, I decided that I was going to leave my corporate job this year, and it was just a notion, it was a kind of I think I'll leave my job. Or, okay, what would I need to do that? And since then, I've been on this huge journey and learning curve to get me to the position where I've left my corporate role and work for myself. But obviously you can't just decide today that you're going to do that and do it tomorrow, because there's so much that needs to go into it. So start exploring, start planning, start thinking, get a notebook, write some stuff down, start thinking about the things that you could be doing to work towards it, so that when the world is more stable, when the economy, when COVID, when all these things have started to settle down, which they will, because we can't stay in a state of flux forever, you will be in that really great place to push yourself forward then. So what about this one? I don't know if any of you tell yourself this. So I don't push myself because I'm scared of failure. So again, here's another question. Who decides if you're a failure? So who said you're a failure, or who gets to sit as judge and jury on you and decide that you are a failure? And if I was talking to you face to face or one to one, I think you'd be saying, well, I don't know, well, perhaps my mum or my old boss or that girl that I don't like that was horrible to me at school. Nobody gets to decide if you're a failure. You decide about your success and failure. And I think more about the fact that life isn't about right or wrong. It's not yes, no, it's not pass, fail, it's not 50-50, it's not, there are shades of grey, so it isn't one extreme or the other. There are elements, and there are mini successes, and there are little failures, and there are things along the way which will kind of push you on your journey. but you're not a failure. Nobody's a failure. Okay, what about I don't feel I'm good enough? So if you are sitting there and you are thinking, oh yeah, that's how I feel, you know, my story is I just don't feel I'm good enough for stuff. I'm telling you right now that you are enough. Okay, you are enough now. You are enough tomorrow. You are always enough. You are enough every single day, and you are who you are meant to be. So each person, the great thing about being a human being is that you are unique and wonderful, and you are the person that you were designed to be. That doesn't mean that you can't develop your skill set and look at who you are, because if you're anything like me, I'm highly self-critical, and I'll see things in myself and think I don't like that, and I'll work on it, and I want to improve it and change it and develop my skill set. But even if you didn't do that, you are exactly you. And to Josie's point about banking good feedback, think about all those great things. Think about Josie's recommendation about asking a friend why they're friends with you. They wouldn't be friends with you if you weren't a lovely person and a great, you know, great friend to be around and great company and stuff. So you are good enough. You are good enough at work. You are good enough in your personal life. You are a great person, and you are always enough. So my challenge to you, if any of these things have resonated with you, is to start writing a new story. So don't get stuck with me, like me, with my 25 years of I'm not confident. Get a new story written down. So this is why I love journaling or like scribbling stuff in a notebook. Start by exploring what you would like your story to be. What would you like it to look like? Focus on all your brilliant talents, your skills, your qualities. Think about the nice things that people would say about you. Try and get it, if you can, into one sentence. I mean, by all means, write a longer story, but I'd like you to think about it every day. So perhaps one sentence would be more useful. But think about that different story that you could tell yourself, which would help with your confidence. So think about perhaps all those, if some of those things that I've said have resonated with you about the stories which are more negative, think about how you can turn them on their head and write the opposite. So if you are struggling with writing it down, perhaps focus on the negative first, or the kind of more limiting stories that you tell yourself, and then focus it to the positive. Okay. Once you've settled on your story, I would like you to start telling yourself it often. Repeat it every day. Maybe put it on your phone, maybe on your screensaver, put it up on your mirror when you're getting ready in the morning. I don't know, put it somewhere, but think about it every day and let it become a new habit. Because I'm telling you that those stories that you've been hanging on to for years and years and years, it does take time to push them away. But the more you focus on that really positive story, the more you will start to believe it, and the more that will be the thing that you kind of carry with you all day. So it's good to look at it in the morning when you get up. Okay, so that was really quick because I'm conscious of time. So if when I have been talking you thought, wow, she's really great, and you'd like to work with me, then I would love to have a chat with you. So you can find me on Facebook. I'm a talent trainer. I've got a brilliant group on Facebook called The Confident Crowd, which is girls only and for women who would like to be in the company of like-minded girls who spur each other on, give each other advice, have a bit of fun, and just in a really safe space. You can find me on Instagram. I've got a website, talenttrainer.com. And like Josie, I've got a little offer as well. So mine is a back to the new normal coaching session. So I guess the thought process around that is the kids are back at school. Normality is nearly resuming. Obviously, I thought about this before the 6-person rule came in. But if you would like to hang out with me, you can book in for a back to the new normal coaching session. It's 90 minutes. I'd normally do it 75 minutes for other people, but for you guys and girls in here, it's £97. So if you would like to have a look at booking that, you can look on my Facebook page to book, or you can ping me an email at laura@thetalenttrainer.com. So that's me. So thank you for listening. I think we're going to go to some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, ladies. That was so insightful, really, really informative. And I think some really good stuff that came out of that. We had some really nice chat bits coming on in the chat box. One that really tickled me was Amy said, I always remember my maths teacher saying, you are just not good at maths. And now she looks after budgets at work. She's clearly not that bad.
That's quite funny, because I'm not very good at maths, and actually at my daughter's parents' evening many years ago, I said, I'm no good at maths, and the teacher told me off. And it was obviously before I was kind of in that coaching space. She said, you're just telling yourself that, and you're perpetuating the myth that women are poor at maths. And I kept saying, but I'm not very good at maths. And she goes, but you're perpetuating the myth. I want you to stop saying that. I was like, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other one, there we had someone told me that women apply for a job if they think they're 100% qualified, and men apply if they think they're only 70% qualified. That's an interesting point.
Actually, I think it's about women need to be about 120% qualified, because we if we're not right there, we have to be like so much further. But men will go, that looks good, I'll go for that.
Yeah. Well, Tracy's just put, actually men go for 40%. So yeah, it's just interesting to see everybody's comments. If anybody's got any other questions, then do feel free to pop them in the chat box as we go. But yeah, no, some really, really interesting stuff that came out for that. I really do appreciate your time this afternoon, ladies. How are we doing for time? Oh, we're actually literally just got 5 minutes left. But
Josie, what about the one about if you're your own boss? What do you do if you're?
Come back to that, because such a good question. So I have a couple of thoughts on this. I think one of them would be that it probably is important to focus on getting other feedback, so that you're not kind of just getting caught up in your own head or your own stories or whatever might be going on. So making sure that you are able to do that, even if it's a case of people that you're working with now, or other people in your network, I think can help to give you that sort of fresh perspective. Some of the other things that I would think about would be if it's a case of needing to find a way to kind of help you celebrate success. I really like the idea. So I think we all probably get caught up in writing a to-do list, right, every week, or kind of focusing on that and always thinking like, oh, what's on the to-do list, and crossing things off, and then always writing a new one, and it's a never-ending thing. And I like the idea of having a to-do list rather than, well, perhaps as well as a to-do list, but something that you would get to at the end of the week, where actually you are really consciously celebrating the things that have gone well and the things that you've achieved in that week. And I think that can be a really good thing that you can do that doesn't need any external input, to really make sure that you are as your own boss, which I think can be a really difficult place to be, where you're having to kind of go it alone and perhaps deal with a lot of different things, whether it's about an insecurity with this, or kind of feeling not sure about whatever it might be. It's a good way to make sure you're celebrating that success. And then I think the other two questions that I would I suppose pose in that kind of situation would be, how can you give yourself a truly balanced month-end review, let's say, rather than a year-end review, because as your own boss you're probably going to be looking at that more often, and be really sort of critical in a good way, that you are looking for both the kind of the positives and anything that you might want to be improving on, rather than being really hard on yourself, which I think is very, very easy to do. And what would it look like to be the best boss of you, the most compassionate version? I think is a good way as well to make sure that you are not just, kind of finding all of those nitpicky kind of things that you're sort of thinking, oh yeah, this is a problem, or I need to be better at this. So hopefully that helps to give you some sort of fresh ideas on that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Josie. Yeah, really, really good. We just had another comment saying, thoroughly enjoyed the sessions, very informative and useful. My business mentor has me to do a top 3 accountability list on a Monday, and then on a Friday I have to report back on my wins and failures. That's great. Helps the community of VAs as well. So yeah, no, really, really good. I'm afraid, ladies, we ran out of time. So yes, we can wrap up. But thank you once again. Such an amazing session. Really, really appreciate your time. And I'm sure everybody that's attended this afternoon is going to take away lots from this. But yeah, hopefully we will see you guys again soon.
Yes.
The Zoom wave.
Thanks, lovelies. Yep, Zoom wave. Bye.
See you later. Bye.